what the government has indicated, certainly here in New South Wales, and I expect it's going to be the same in other locations, is that notwithstanding that there's going to be a wide expanse of restrictions that are lifting, and many of which have been telegraphed, on the issue of working, the government is not really going out there and saying that people should be getting back into their usual places of work. In fact, far from it. What they're saying is that if workers are unvaccinated, their employers must allow them and must require those people to be working from home. And even for those people who are vaccinated, what the government is saying is that those employees must be allowed to work from home if it's reasonably practicable for them to do so. And this is really significant because what I would say is that the government is sending a very contradictory message to employers as against the far more upbeat, open, uplifting messages that it's sending to the rest of the population in terms of saying we want to normalise life. But it seems to be that that's not being extended to how employers go about running their businesses, at least when it comes to the employment of people. So it's one of those things that hasn't attracted a huge amount of attention. But I know there's a lot of employers who are still struggling with trying to understand how this is consistent with everything else they're hearing.
And surely that might also affect the psychology of workers that realise that they can go to the pub, they can go to friends' houses, but they can't actually go into the office.
Correct. And I think it's very disappointing that not more attention has been paid to issues such as mental health of workers, and that once again, this mixed messaging that is really of very little support for employers. I mean, to put it very bluntly, all this does is continues the confusion and chaos for a lot of employers when it comes to what they have to do and can do as to the working arrangements of their people. And it's up to the government, I think, to say, look, if we're opening everything up, then what we should be saying is that if people are double vaccinated in the same way that those people are going to be able to go to people's houses and pubs and theatres and whatever else, those people should be able to come back to the workplace, and there should be no regulation of that in relation to double vaccinated people. That's what the government needs to be saying, and they're not. And I think there are a lot of employers who are very disappointed and continue to be confused.
Yeah, that confusion though, I mean, the employers that you are speaking to, Joydeep, have they made their own decision to say to their workers, actually, you can come back?
Well, it's interesting because when language is used such as if it's reasonably practicable for people to be working from home, then the employer's meant to allow them to continue to work from home. Most employers, speaking bluntly, would say, well, I've had to make it reasonably practicable because over the last few months I haven't had a choice in the matter. So it's not like it's impossible for them to be working from home, but is it convenient for me as the employer to have them working from home? Absolutely not in a lot of instances. So if employers were speaking candidly, they'd say this is not convenient, it's not ideal, but the way you're setting this up is I don't really have an option to insist that my people come back. And what I'd say to employers is just take your own advice in relation to what the regulations mean. Feel free to push the boundaries in relation to something like this. Feel free to lobby, make your voices heard. You're a significant group within the community, and enough pain has been felt by a number of employers for long enough for this to be continuing in circumstances where everything else is opening up.
Joydeep, how do you think the employees feel about what they've experienced over the past 18 months? Are we seeing a shift in people changing jobs just to get the balance right for them?
I think there's a lot of pain that has been felt in the employment relationship, and I commented on the challenges that employers have faced in terms of the uncertainty of where people that they employ can and can't be working from. But it goes beyond that, because both at the employer and the employee level, the whole concept of what work means has been radically altered, and potentially radically altered forever in a permanent sense. People have lost a meaningful sense of connection as employees with their employer. And that has happened as a result of the fact that they're not connected with the geography of where they work. They're not connected other than through Zoom and virtual meetings with their colleagues. But all of that has created a far more transactional relationship between colleagues, and a far more transactional relationship between employees and their employers. And what we're going to see, and have already started to see, is that the care factor that employees have for their place of work is something that has been eroded quite significantly over the past 18 months. And the natural byproduct of that is that those employees are going to be thinking about what else they can be doing with their life. They're going to be thinking about what the whole notion of being employed means. And why do I feel a sense of commitment, if I have felt a sense of commitment to this particular employer? I mean, I've been able to do what I do and get paid from home. I could be doing that for myself. I could be doing that for anyone else. What does it even really mean to be employed? And while that might seem like a big picture philosophical question, at the coalface, it's going to mean a lot more people looking at their job options, a lot of employers struggling to replace people, and just a lot of disruption within the employment market. So it's something that employers need to just be very mindful of, and to the extent you can be proactive as an employer to address this kind of issue, then it's something worth thinking about.